Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to True Doug Man Encounters. I'm your host, Marvin Allen. Again, I want to apologize to my listeners and subscribers because I haven't been uploading them, but I do have new material. That's what I was out doing, gathering new encounters from people. So without further ado, I'm gonna get right into this one. This encounter right here comes from out the South. Now, the lady asked me if I would not give her location, and out of respect, that's what I'm going to do. So, it was this lady, and the name I will use is Miss Meg. Miss Meg and her husband, they live in the South, and they own a farm, and it's been in the family for over 50 years. So, they was just trying to figure out how can they, keep up with the farm and the animals. And she remember when she was younger, she used to see these big black dogs running and walking across their property at night. But while she was young, she just thought that they was, just regular dogs. But she said they looked funny. Like they were big up top and small in the back. She just said it was just weird to her. So she said her and her husband, they get up, get themselves together, go downstairs. She fixed them breakfast. They eat, and they do what they always do. They go out, feed the animals, and check on them. So they go out. They started feeding the animal. So the wife, she walks over by the chicken coop, the chicken pen, and she checks on the chicken. She's looking at them and stuff. So while she was feeding them, she happened to look out in the pasture on their property, and she sees one of the cows limping as it was, as it was walking. So she called her husband. She said, "Come here, look." And they looks and they walks over there to the cow. And that's when they noticed 5 distinct claw marks on this cow hindquarters going down his leg. So she said to her husband, "What do you think did that?" He said, "I don't know, but I don't think it's no animals from around here." So what he tell her, he said, "Go in the house and call, animal control, had them come out." So animal control comes out. They takes a look at this cow, and the husband say, "What do you think made those marks?" So animal control guy says, "Looks like a coyote to me." He said, "Man, that's not no coyote. Look at it. It's 5 scratch marks on it, man. You can see where the nails dug into the hindquarters." He said, "So you're going to try to tell me about my job, and I know these animals, every animal down here, it's a coyote." So the husband, he gets upset, and he asks the man to leave. So he leave. So he tells his wife again, go in the house and call their friend over, because their friend, he's an average hunter, and he know every animal indigenous to that area, down to the insects. So anyway, he comes over, he ever looks at this cow, and they ask him, "What do you think did that?" He said, "I don't know, but I can tell you this, it ain't no animal from down here." He said, I was saying the same thing. He said, because animal control tried to say there was a coyote. He said, "That ain't no goddamn coyote. Ain't no coyote do that. The marks are wide and deep." So he asked them, "Do you have any idea of any other animals being on your property?" And the wife said, "Yes, I sees these huge black dogs. I've been seeing them ever since I was a little girl, walking on our property and running." He said, "What kind of doves?" He said, "I don't know what kind of doves. I know they are huge. They are very large." So he said, okay, well, what I think y'all should do, I think y'all should just start keeping your floodlights on, just to try to keep the animals that's here out. He said, if you have any more problems, just call me. So he leaves. So later on that day, they in the house and they sitting down and they talking. So as they sitting down and talking, they can hear noise coming from out back. They hear the pigs rounded up, making all kinds of noise. So the husband grabs his gun. He goes out. So when he goes out, he sees this giant black dog on all fours near the pig pen. So he looking at this thing and he calls his wife. She comes outside. He say, look. She said, that's the same thing I used to see when I was a little girl. That big black dog. Then a few seconds later, they see another dog coming across the pasture. Same color. Then they notice those yellow, glowing eyes. Said these eyes were pure yellow. Said like they were self-illuminating. So the husband said while they was watching that first creature by that corral, they said this thing did something that should no animal do. He said this thing stood up on his hind legs. And when it stood up on his hind legs, it sniffed the air. And when it sniffed the air, it looked over in their direction and it started to growl. And the wife said when this thing growled, they could feel it in their insides. Said they could feel it like a vibration. He said then that second creature, it stopped in the middle of their pasture, and this creature stood up on its hind legs. Then it walked. He said this thing was taking some giant steps. He said this thing was tall, pointed ears, long snout. Thing had some long arms. He said, and when this thing walked, it was walked hunched over. Like it couldn't stand straight up. He said, but it had long arms with humanoid-like hands. The bent back legs. He said, and this thing did have a tail. Said this thing did have a tail. Now, mind you, their friend told them to keep these floodlights on. Told them to keep these floodlights on. Which they didn't listen and they didn't turn them on. So he telling his wife. Now, they had light out there. They had light over by the chicken house. They had a light over there by the pig pen. And they had lights over there, but they forgot to turn those floodlights on. But they could still see these creatures from the moonlight because it let it off some of the light. And they said that these creatures was black as night. So while they watching these creatures, the creatures that was by the pig pen, said this thing took one leap and leaped over into that pen, landing. Said the sound was so hard that it's like they could feel the ground shake. Said this thing had to be heavy. So the pigs is going crazy, oink, 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 making all this type of noise. He said then this creature just reached down as a pig running. One quick swipe. I mean, and it hit him on his side, yo, and it just split that pig. And his internal organs just started spilling straight out. Said then that creature grabbed that pig, lifted up, turned around, and it leaped back over that pen. And it walked. It walked back towards the tree line. Now, mind you, that second creature is still out there. that second creature started to walk over in the direction of where the chickens was, where they had the chicken pen at. Now these chickens going crazy. This second creature stood about 5 feet from where that chicken coop was, and it stopped. That first creature, when it got up there by that tree line, it turned. And it made some type of noise. I don't know what it was, if it was a signal or something. He said, but that second creature then turned around and walked back up in the tree line. They don't know what the fuck they just saw. They don't know what it is. They goes in. Nothing else happened that night. They get up the next morning. When they come out and they look over there at the chicken pen, the whole front was ripped off. Feathers, chicken parts, everything gone. All the chickens was gone. Them things killed all of them. Feathers everywhere, leading all across the pasture, all the way up to the tree line. So the husband calls the friend back over. They comes over. They get their guns. So the wife said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to look for these things. She said, please don't go looking for these things. We don't know what they are. So the husband said, I'll be all right. I'll be back. They walk across the pasture in the same direction of where these creatures walk. And they goes up into that trail. And they walking in these woods. They walk about, I think the husband say 75 to 100 yards. And they stop. They smelled this awful, God-forsaken, awful odor. Like something was dead. So now they looking around. They don't see no dead animals. But they looking around. And just about 25 to 30 yards, the friend said, that's when he seen one of these things. On all fours. Looking dead over at him. Said then this thing started to growl. So the husband, he aims his rifle at this thing. And when he aimed this rifle at this thing, he said this thing moved. It moved so fast, he said it didn't make no sense. He said he ain't even get time enough to get a shot off. He said this thing moved so fast. He said then his friend said, where did it go? Because now they don't see this thing. They don't know where it went. He said that's how fast this thing moved. He said then they heard some noise coming from the right side. They looked over there. They see another creature. Now they know it's two of these creatures again up in these woods. They see this other creature. This creature standing up. And it's standing beside a tree. And it's looking dead over at them. Then it starts to walk in their direction. The friend said, should we shoot it? So the husband said, I'm going to shoot it. This thing is closing in too close. So the husband aimed, he shoots, he hits this creature. And when he hit this creature, said it's like you can hear the sound because he know it hit it. Like when you hit something and it make that sound, he said he know he hit this creature. He said, but it's like the bullet didn't do shit. He said the creature did stop. He said the creature stopped. And it looked over. Looked over at it where it was shot at, like it knew it was hit, like it knew it was hurt. But it didn't look like it was hurt because it didn't make out a noise or nothing. It just stood there. And once it looked over to where it was shot at, said then it looked at them. Said it looked at them. And when it looked at them, the husband said he could have swore that this thing smiled. Like he was saying in his mind, oh, you shot me, but I'm all right. Said like this thing smiled. So the friend said, I think we better go. I think we better leave. I think we need to go now. So the husband said, I think you're right. Let's go. So the husband turns and he walks backwards. He's walking backwards out on the trail, but he's watching this creature. That's when they heard some running. From the left side, they heard some running through the woods. Then they see this shadow just running. I mean, it's just moving fast. Then it stopped. Say when that shadow stopped, then they noticed that that was the first creature that they saw. So they looking at this creature. Now they walking backwards. They trying to get the hell out this trail. So they walking backwards, but they watching both of these creatures. The friend is watching one, and the husband is watching the other one. They makes it out back where the tree line started, back out on the pasture. Now they still walking. They wife see them coming out. She call them, are y'all all right? Are y'all all right? Husband and the friend don't say nothing. They just still walking backwards. These creatures started walking now. Now they walking. The husband and the friend picking up their pace, walking backwards. And the wife again, are y'all all right? Are y'all all right? Now she's hysterical. She's really upset now. So as they walking backwards, they get almost down there to where the pig pen is at. And then they stop and they see these creatures come back out to the front of that tree line. And they just stood there. So the wife say, please come on, let's go in the house. Let's call somebody. Come on, look at those things over there. So husband and the friend, they turn around. They hurry up and get back to the house and they goes in. When they goes in, they looks out the window. They could still see them creatures standing up there at the tree line. So they called the sheriff. Sheriff comes out there. You know, take their statement. He asked them, what did y'all see? He said, man, I think it's some wild dogs in the area. You know, it's been killing some of my friends and his wife livestock. And, you know, I don't know what they is. I guess they dogs or not. They didn't tell the sheriff what they really saw. Because they didn't know how he was going to react. So they left it as that. So that was their encounter. You know, I just wanted to put that out there, give y'all something to listen to. So hope y'all enjoy it. And I do have more for y'all. Thank you and enjoy your weekend.